It's 2025 already. Can you believe it? I sure can't. Over the last couple years, I have done a crochet type stash blanket calendar, crochet along type thing. And this year is no different. This year, I am going to be working on a 2025 knitted temperature blanket. We are already into January, well into January. It's January 18th as I am filming this video. So I have already made a little bit of progress on this temperature blanket. Here is what I have so far. So you can see there's individual squares, and each square represents a day, and each color represents the temperature that it was. I am knitting, typically just knitting in the stockinette stitch. So knit a row, purl a row. There are a few squares that I will be working a garter stitch, which is just all knit, just to kind of make this more of a unique patchworky type temperature blanket. I've got some additional squares to add from the last few days, plus I have like 3 or 4 days that I still have to knit up some squares for. If you are interested in joining me along in this project, or you're interested in how to crochet one of these stockinette stitch squares, I have a video tutorial for that. These are about 4" by 4" squares using a pair of 6mm knitting needles and a 4-weight acrylic yarn. Although for this project or these squares, you can use whatever yarn and whatever hook corresponds to that yarn, or whatever you're comfortable using as you're knitting up squares. Not only are these squares great to join together into blankets, but you can also make bags or cardigans or anything modular that you might need squares for. So how did I set this whole thing up? Well, first I decided on my color scheme. So it really depends on what area that you live in, what your weather is like. Does it vary a lot? Is it kind of the same during the winter months, the spring months, the summer months? You really kind of want to think about how much degree change that you need before you start changing a color. So for me, I started with 15 degrees. So anything 15 degrees and under is going to be sort of a dark pink. Then I went 16 degrees to 25 degrees, and this is Fahrenheit. I did a lighter pink. Then 26 to 35, I've got a blue. 36 to 45, a lighter blue. 46 to 55, I've got green, a darker green. 56 to 65, I've got a lighter green. 66 to 75, I have yellow. 76 to 85, I have orange. And 85 and up, I have red. So we'll see how this works. I have done it where it's just, 0 degrees to 10, 11 to 20, so on. But I kind of wanted to flip it up because we really don't get below 15 as a high super often. And I wanted to make sure that I used all of the colors. One of the toughest things in creating a temperature blanket is making sure that you can incorporate each and every color that you have listed for your temperatures. Next, I created a spreadsheet in Excel, and I decided to do my blanket corner to corner because 365 days does not equally come out to an equal number of rows and columns where it's going to be a perfect rectangle. I had to add in some squares. So you kind of have to play around with the math. So I have 368 total squares. Obviously, that is not equal to 365 days. So I've got 3 extra squares in there. What am I doing with those? That is where my gray comes in. So you can see my very first square was gray. That is going to be my very bottom left hand corner square. This is my square number 1 as I'm working that corner to corner. I am also going to put one as the very end square, so that's 2 extra squares, and a gray square to indicate the exact middle of the year, which I believe is July 4th, around that time. Anyway, we'll find out as I get there. So I've got my gray square to indicate the start of the year. I then went up with my light blue and then diagonally down with a light blue. And then I went next door for corner to corner row 3 with dark blue, and dark blue up here. Corner to corner row 4 starts up here, and then we're coming down now on this side. So I'm just kind of going up and down, back and forth, as you would maybe a corner to corner crochet blanket. I love the way the corner to corner allows me to join the squares as I'm going, and I'm just joining very roughly. I'm not making this fancy. Like I said, I want it to be kind of a unique patchwork kind of feel. And so far, I'm absolutely loving it. It's getting me back into knitting a little bit. I've worked so much in crochet. I can crochet so much faster. That has really taken away from the time that I am able or even want to knit. So this project is really forcing me to grab those knitting needles and just start knitting. Refresher on Knitting 101, knit and purl, nothing fancy, and joining the squares as I go so I don't have a lot of joins to do at the end. So if you're interested in working up these squares or doing a temperature blanket similar to this, you can check out the knitting tutorial that I have on this particular square. I am using the same number of chains to start, same number of rows that I did in that tutorial for this blanket. Now you can obviously customize this as much as you want. You can make bigger squares, you can make smaller squares. I figured that this is going to be quite a large blanket, as these squares are 4 inches by 4 inches. So I should have an ending blanket that's maybe 60 to 70 inches by about 90 inches. We'll see how that goes. And that's not including a border. So this blanket could be just huge, and I'm all for it. I have all of my yarn pulled out of my stash for this project, and I'm keeping it in this nice little bag. You can see it's all right there. There's a lot of pockets in here so I can keep the extra squares that I make that I haven't yet joined, my knitting needles, anything that I might need for this project in this bag. Keep it all together throughout the year so I don't end up using it for another project accidentally. And I have pulled out of my stash yarn, so this is a great stash busting kind of blanket. I am noticing though, because we've had so many of those days where I had to use the dark blue, that I'm kind of running a little bit low on the dark blue, and we're only into January 18th. So I'm really hoping that all of the yarns that I've picked from my stash will last for each square that I need. That's to be determined. If I do run out, we will have to kind of readjust what I need to do. Do I want to just grab a similar color from my stash, or do I really need to go out and buy yarn for this? I'm hoping not, but we'll see. So that is the 2025 knitted temperature blanket project for BitKnits this year. Feel free to join along or just come back every once in a while, as I will be doing video updates every few weeks so I can show you my progress. Thanks everyone for your support and for watching my channel. I will see you in my next video. Happy knitting, everyone. Bye.